soon as I get the green light. There it is. Welcome, everybody. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and today we're going to go over the 2018 NFC South Fantasy Preview. For those of you watching, whether you be someone that's been playing fantasy for the last 10 years or someone that just wants to get into it this year, this video is basically a comprehensive review or preview over the NFC South. The NFC South is going to consist of the New Orleans Saints, Carolina Panthers, Atlanta Falcons, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So before we begin, I just want to go over a couple terms for you that don't. I'm just going to throw them out there as the video proceeds. For those of you that don't know, when I say PPR, that is a point per reception, or half PPR, half point per reception. An RBBC, if I ever refer to it, is a running back by committee. I'll also try to explain that as I continue. A handcuff is another player that is basically of value, but I'll go into that as we proceed throughout this video. So let's begin with the New Orleans Saints, the division champions of last year, the NFC South. So, hey everybody, how's it going? So let's begin with Drew Brees. Obviously, the captain, the leader of the New Orleans Saints. Drew Brees has, been the staple of that offense. When it comes to fantasy points, you could always guarantee that Drew Brees was going to help his receivers. He was going to help himself fantasy-wise, and he was going to produce, right? So, and as you can see on the screen, in 2016, Drew Brees had 406 fantasy points. Now, the way I stat these out is 6 point per passing touchdown. If you don't currently play in that kind of a league of rules by that standard, I would suggest changing it. 6 points per touchdown on an equal basis, whether it be quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. Equality is the best. So anyway, let's go into Drew Brees specifically. So Drew Brees, as you can see in 2017, he almost dropped 100 total fantasy points. Why? You may be asking, but did Drew Brees get hurt? Did he, not play? That wasn't the case. The entire culture of the New Orleans Saints changed over 1 year, right? So in 2016, the New Orleans Saints had Brandon Cooks. During the offseason, they traded him away. They traded him to the New England Patriots. By losing a 1,000-yard receiver, obviously you could tell Drew Brees was going to lose a little bit of production. But nobody expected him to throw for less yards the way he did. At that point, look, as you see on the screen, he threw for almost 1,000 yards less and 14 touchdowns less, which is ridiculous, right? But the fact of the matter was, his throwing attempts only went down 100. So it wasn't that drastic, but because of the fact that the two running backs of the Saints stepped up this past season, it kind of shifted the culture. It took the pressure off of Drew Brees. He didn't have to make as many plays. And as the season proceeded, they thought, you know what, let's just give the balls to the backs and let Drew Brees only throw when he has to. And it obviously went towards the success of the team because not only did they win the division, that's going to happen a lot. I can't do anything about it. Anyway, obviously, forcing Drew Brees to only throw when he has to went towards the success. Why can't I say that? Went towards the success of the team. And what happened was they won the division. They made the playoffs. And for any football fans that watched playoffs, they lost Hail Mary last play of the game against the Minnesota Vikings. So anyway, what I project for Drew Brees this coming season, obviously I see him being as good as he's always going to be. Drew Brees is not going to have another one of these slump seasons where he just, is forced to throw whenever he wants to. I see Drew Brees coming back to what he's usually been at, 4,800 passing yards, 30 touchdowns. He just got a brand new contract. He should be ready to go. And the fact of the matter is, Drew Brees hasn't lost a step. He's like Tom Brady almost to the point. He continues to get better. He continues to impress. And I don't expect any different. I would say Drew Brees is absolutely a top quarterback. He should start on any team within your league. no matter the league settings. So, yeah, I would say in my ranking, he's about the 4th or 5th best quarterback in the entire fantasy landscape. So the next person we're going to talk about, Mark Ingram, one of the starting running backs of the New Orleans Saints. Now, here's the thing about the New Orleans Saints, right? They have this two-headed monster with Mark Ingram, of course, and Alvin Kamara. The thing is now, Mark Ingram will be suspended for the next season for the first 4 games of the season because of performance-enhancing drugs, PEDs. So obviously that's going to hurt his production, right? If you're suspended for the first 4 games, a lot of the people in drafts are not going to probably pick him up too early. They're going to think, okay, well, it's like having a hurt player, right? And I only get him at week 4. So his value is going to drop. His production is going to drop. But here's the thing I want you to look at. Last year, okay, in 2017, Mark Ingram had highs in attempts to rush, rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, receptions, and receiving yards, okay? These are all highs for his career, okay? He's in his, 7th year in the NFL, and he's just getting to his, peak, right? Which is absolutely ridiculous the way I see it, right? So my only advice here, right? The Saints obviously have Alvin Kamara. We're going to talk about him next. But Mark Ingram is absolutely Alvin Kamara's handcuff as the season proceeds, right? Alvin Kamara is going to start the season, the first 4 games, he's going to be the lead back. Mark Ingram's going to come in. Yes, he's going to produce, but not to the numbers he had last year. He'll definitely be an RB2, maybe a low RB2, high RB2, somewhere in that range, but he's definitely not worth the first-round pick or second-round pick this year because of the 4-game suspension, I would say if you're looking to target Mark Ingram, look maybe 4th round. I mean, you could steal him there. If you can set up the first 3 picks to the point where you're thinking, okay, I can survive the first 4 weeks and then get this running back there, and then at week 4, go, then all the power to you. But Mark Ingram, man, he got way better last year. He just came out of his shell and he just produced. Maybe it's because he knew that Alvin Kamara could pick up the 3rd downs, so it gave him a little bit more time to rest. But whatever it was, he worked. He definitely produced. So Alvin Kamara, offensive rookie of the year last year. Absolute monster. I mean, let me let you know, this guy, the speed he plays at is actually disgusting. It's disturbing because you think, okay, how can a rookie just come straight into the NFL and dominate, right? Isn't there supposed to be a learning curve? There's quarterbacks that sit here, there's linebackers that sit here. This guy came into the league, absolutely just lit it on fire. Alvin Kamara, just look at his stats, okay? First year in the NFL, okay? 120 rushing attempts, okay? That's it. 120 rushing attempts. 728 yards. He had 6 yards per carry on average. 6.1 yards. You give him the ball twice, he's getting you a first down. Okay? And then for PPR leagues, point per reception, he had 81 receptions. 81. Okay? That's better than wide receiver ones. So when I say wide receiver 1, right? Usually a league will consist of 10, 12 teams. So to be considered an RB1, a QB1, or a wide receiver 1, you have to be in the top 12. Okay? So not only is he putting up receiving stats better than receivers, right? If I'm not mistaken, this guy had more receptions than almost Julio Jones, which is ridiculous because he's a running back, right? So not only did he have 81 receptions, he had 826 yards receiving, right? Anyway, 13 total touchdowns. Let's put it this way. Alvin Kamara is the 3rd best running back in the National Football League when it comes to fantasy football. Behind Le'Veon Bell and Todd Gurley, Alvin Kamara is your next best option. Because what matters is, let's put it this way, because I'm stumbling all over my words. What matters is production, right? obviously, we know he can produce. Now, the next thing towards that is how many attempts he's going to get. Obviously, as I said before, Mark Ingram, he's not going to be there for the first 4 games. So they're going to feed Alvin Kamara as much as they possibly can. Can he take the workload? Absolutely. And after they see that he can take the workload by himself, hey, maybe it just fizzles out, Mark Ingram. Maybe they just stick to Alvin Kamara because they know they can. But the fact of the matter is, in leagues, whether it be standard, PPR, Alvin Kamara should be the 3rd overall pick, plain and simple. He is the 3rd best player in the entire National Football League when it comes to fantasy football. And you can at me. Alvin Kamara is a monster, plain and simple. Shit. He had 271.9 fantasy points last year. That's better than quarterbacks. And in a 6-point per touchdown league, that's incredible. What a monster. Okie dokie. So next for the Saints, we have Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas out of Ohio State. In his second year with the Saints, not having Brandon Cooks on the roster didn't do him too many favors, but at the end of the day, he's consistent. He's going to take the double teams. He's going to get zone safety coverage over the top. Teams are going to know that Drew Brees wants to throw it to Michael Thomas. So obviously his production will be hit, but the fact of the matter is he's way too good a receiver, and Drew Brees is way too good of a quarterback for anybody to stop them. Also, when you have running backs like Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, at the end of the day, you have to respect the run. You have to respect the backfield, that offensive line coming at you. And that opens up so much for Michael Thomas to produce. As we can see, these last 2 seasons, he's had almost 200 receptions. That's absolutely ridiculous in PPR and in half-point PPR. It's insane. Now, the only thing that really affected him this past season was his touchdown receptions. As you can tell, it didn't do too much because he kind of made it up with receiving yards and receptions. So you can tell he's getting better. He's going to continue to improve. He, in my opinion, is the 4th or 5th best wide receiver in the NFL right now in a fantasy standpoint. Without a doubt, you can snag this guy in the late 2nd round, maybe early 3rd round if you're lucky. He's an absolute, and that'd be saying God, I hate stumbling my words. You can pick him up in the late 2nd, maybe even early 3rd in half-point PPR leagues and maybe even standard leagues. But in full PPR leagues, it's kind of hard to pass on 100 receptions. This guy could possibly go in the late 1st in a 12-man league. I project, he's going to 100%. He'll stick to his stats, maybe even get more touchdowns. At this point, I see him just doing the exact same thing, continuing to produce and continuing to be strong as a number 1 wide receiver. Start every week into any matchup, no matter what. And, yeah, he's a monster. So, the next receiver on the Saints, Ted Ginn Jr. There's not much to talk about Ted Ginn Jr. Because he's not really a wide receiver 1. He's not really even a wide receiver 2. The fact of the matter is Ted Ginn Jr. is more of a bench player. You'll draft him just to put him on your bench so that you have, somebody to play. Like, let's say, for example, someone has a bye week. And you're thinking, okay, Ted Ginn has a good matchup. I can play him. Or, you have no other option. Maybe he'll produce. Because, look, as you can see, in 2016, even with playing with the Panthers, he produced the same stats. Literally, like, straight down the line, almost the most identical stats I've seen out of all the players I'm going to review today. Even his fantasy points by the end of the year were identical. Fact of the matter is, Ted Ginn's a deep threat, which is good for Drew Brees. And, he's the 2nd option within this receiver. Actually, he's not even the 2nd option. Let's be honest. Michael Thomas is the 1st option. Alvin Kamara is the 2nd option. Sometimes even, Mark Ingram had more receptions than him last year. So he's maybe even the 4th option. And the next guy I'm going to talk about might be the 4th. He might even be the 5th option. So the fact of the matter is, Ted Ginn doesn't have much value this year. Unless something is to happen to one of the receivers on the Saints right now, Michael Thomas, he gets hurt or something. this would be your handcuff, right? So let's say you have Michael Thomas, right? And you're thinking, hey, he's not looking too healthy. Let me go find Ted Ginn on the waiver wire, pick him up just in case he doesn't play. Ted Ginn will get all the receptions, right? So you kind of have to look at it that way. Otherwise, Ted Ginn, not much value. He doesn't have much value at all. I honestly could see him not even getting drafted in some drafts, depending on how big the league is. Anyway, our next player, Benjamin Watson. So here's the deal with Ben Watson, right? In 2015, he played for the Saints, right? In 2016, guy got hurt, out for the entire season. 2017, played for the Ravens, right? Now, if you look back at 2015, he had 74 receptions and 825 yards with 6 touchdowns for the Saints, right? And as you can see in that picture, he was a captain on the team, right? So Ben Watson, obviously, going back to the Saints this year, has potential to produce, right? Even last year with the Ravens, right? And let's talk about the Ravens real quick. Joe Flacco, I mean, he's bound to be replaced next year. Let's just be honest. He's not playing well, and after that Super Bowl, his production's dipped. I don't know. Maybe they gave him too much money. I don't know. I don't know if there's such thing as too much money, but maybe there is. Anyway, so Ben Watson definitely has potential. Like, comparatively to the tight ends that the Saints have had, right? A couple years back, they had Jimmy Graham, right? That's why Drew Brees was throwing for 5,000 yards a year, right? Because Jimmy Graham was just inhaling receptions with Brandon Cooks. Now that they've gotten rid of Jimmy Graham, they've gotten rid of Brandon Cooks, now they're bringing back Ben Watson. Last year, they had what? They had Kobe Fleener. Oh, my God. Kobe Fleener. God, what a disappointment. I mean, go back to the Colts. Go hug and cry with Andrew Luck as he sits injured on the bench. What? Anyway, I see Benjamin Watson in this offense, comfortable, has a good rapport with Drew Brees. And the fact of the matter is, I can see him going for 600 yards, 5 touchdowns, which would literally probably make him a tight end 1 at the end of the day, because really the tight end field is just not great. So if in your drafts you get to the point where you're like, all the good tight ends are gone, I'm just going to go ahead and draft more wide receiver depth, more running back depth, you can go ahead and pick up Ben Watson and see how it goes. I would probably do the same over Eric Ebron's, over tight ends that are kind of mediocre, Luke Wilson's, or even Cameron Brate. I'd probably take Ben Watson this season over him just because of Drew Brees. Anyway, so after that, any other Saints that I missed probably would be the new addition Cameron Meredith. He was hurt last year, tore his Achilles or ACL, if I'm not mistaken, for the Chicago Bears. He's a big target. The fact of the matter is, nobody's probably going to draft him. He's still recovering. He will be on the waiver wire. So just, look out for Cameron Meredith. That's all I got to say. All right, the next team we're going to talk about, Carolina Panthers, right? So, Carolina Panthers are kind of on and off for me. I don't know. Obviously, Cam Newton's a monster. It shows in his stats. It shows in his... And it did it again. Anyway, we know that Cam Newton's a monster. It's plain and simple, without a doubt, right? So here's the deal, though. Look at these stats. So, you don't even have... I don't put... I made a mistake. I didn't put his rushing stats up there, but guess what? I have them. Ha 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 ha. Okay, so in 2016, right, Cam Newton ran for 359 yards and 5 touchdowns, right? Which is great fantasy-wise, right? 359 yards, that's 35.9 points, and 5 touchdowns. 6 points per, that's another 30. So that's 65 points that he gets just because he has legs, right? Tom Brady doesn't get those points. Why? He got no legs. Peyton Manning didn't get those points. Why? Because he has a noodle neck. He can't run, right? But Cam Newton, young, athletic. I mean, shit, he's bigger than offensive lineman if you stand him next to him. He's a monster. Now, what he did last year, right? He threw for less yards, okay? His completion percentage, I mean, it went up, right? Because in 2016, he was a mess after he lost that Super Bowl. So everything kind of improved last year, right? But he ran the ball like an RB2, okay? He had 754 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns, right? Now, if you go and stat that out comparatively to RB2s, right, which is running backs that are ranked 12 to 24 for the potential season, right? He will probably produce more rushing yards than them. So not only are you drafting a pretty decent quarterback, but you're also drafting a running back. So he's basically 2 positions. It's like Alvin Kamara, right? Alvin Kamara, not only is he rushing the ball, but he's getting receptions as well. He's double dipping into the fantasy points, right? That's what Cam does, right? Cam put up 341.48 fantasy points last season in 6-point per touchdown leagues, right? I'm telling you, 6-point per touchdown leagues. I'm going to keep saying it. That's how you're supposed to play this game. 6-point per touchdown for quarterbacks. I don't care if they throw 4 touchdowns. They deserve the points. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, so what I'd say, Cam Newton, for sure, without a doubt in my mind, top 5 to 6 quarterback, behind obviously, the behind Rodgers, Brady, Brees, Russell Wilson, and give or take maybe Kirk Cousins. Don't have me. Cam Newton's up there, and he should be treated as so. When you're drafting, he should come off the board pretty early when it comes to quarterbacks. He can run the ball. He can throw the ball. I see him having a better year this year. Christian McCaffrey's in his second year. They went and picked up C.J. Anderson, as we'll go through. Greg Olsen's coming back. Greg Olsen's coming back. And Devin Funchess is stepping up. They got a couple more pieces for him. They got a couple more weapons. Cam Newton's going to improve, absolutely. All right, next, Christian McCaffrey, the beast out of Stanford in his first year. Now, let's just get this straight. He's not Alvin Kamara, right? No one's Alvin. Alvin Kamara isn't Alvin Kamara sometimes. Sometimes he wakes up, he's not Alvin Kamara. He's not feeling it, right? But this kid produced 117 rushing attempts, 435 yards. I mean, that's pretty decent, right? I mean, a lot of players don't get that, right? In their rookie year, 2 touchdowns, right? His rushing attempts per average 3.7. That's not great. Honestly, it's not great. I can see that improving, but I would say that was just a culmination of having Jonathan Stewart, lugging down your team, because Jonathan Stewart's a bum. Thank God they got rid of him. Anyway, but you know what happened? He had 80 receptions. Boom, he pulled an Alvin Kamara. 80 receptions, right? Wide receivers in the NFL. Ted Ginn had 54 receptions, okay? In a PPR league, he's just as good as a receiver with 651 yards. Overall, total, okay? He had 1,000 yards, right? And then he had 80 receptions and a total of 7 touchdowns. He's practically a wide receiver 1. At this point, he's practically a wide receiver 1. With those statistics, you're just getting a running back, right? He's going to go and sit in your running back slot. But at the end of the day, he's a wide receiver 1. Okay? I'd say, Christian McCaffrey, 100% RB2 this year. Pick him up second, third, fourth round, depending on your league. Sometimes people run 2 QB leagues and players drop because people want better QB value. Sometimes people have weird, I don't know. I'm not going to even go into it. Some people have some weird, like, first down gets a point. I don't know. Anyway, Christian McCaffrey, RB2. I mean, he's going to improve. He's going to have better stats this year. Without a doubt in my mind. He is going to be the RB1 on this team. Jonathan Stewart won't be taken too much because he's gone. C.J. Anderson, we'll talk about him next, is going to be taking much. Christian McCaffrey's stats are protected. He's going to improve. You know what? He might even break into the RB1 this year. I'm poised to say that there's potential for him to break into the RB1. Anyway, so pick him up not too early. Third round. I'd maybe second, maybe late second. But then again, if all the wide receiver 1s are gone and all the RB1s are gone, just pick up McCaffrey. Put him in your flex. He's a monster. All right, next. Oh my goodness, CJ. I don't know about CJ Anderson. Let's go ahead and fix that real quick. Oh, hey, look at that. I'm making adjustments on the spot, just like a coach. Okay, CJ Anderson. Picked up in free agents. in free agency. Last year he had his best season of his career, right? And the Broncos just didn't want to re-sign him. They released him. And, the fact of the matter is, I don't know how much I trust in C.J. Anderson, right? Prior to this year, right, C.J. Anderson injured every single season, right? Like, he'd always find something to get hurt on. Nagging calf injury, groin injury, back spasms. He would find maybe he tore his ACL. I don't remember. I don't know. But he would always find a reason not to play, right? I mean, he's not doing it on purpose, but that's just the way, his body worked, right? So no one really relied upon him. Maybe you'd have him for the first 4 weeks of the season, and then he'd fizzle out. So you'd have to go find another option. But, last year he produced. He had 400, not 400, what am I saying? I was looking at the wrong line. He had 1,000 yards rushing, right? With almost 250 attempts, which is ridiculous, right? That's how you can tell if a running back is healthy throughout the season. If you handed this man the ball off 245 times, and he's 4.1 yards per carry, he produced at the end of the day, right? For himself, he produced fantasy wise, he was probably an RB2, RB3. No, he was an RB2 for sure. But the fact of the matter is, this year coming to Carolina, Carolina obviously needs someone to kind of bump and run those first down, second down. But even then, here's the thing: Cam Newton's going to run the ball, Christian McCaffrey's going to run the ball, C.J. Anderson's going to run the ball, right? So where is that going to stop? Right? Who's going to get gypped attempts? I'd say it's going to be C.J. Anderson, right? Christian McCaffrey has the versatility of being able to be out there. They have to man him up. If you man up Christian McCaffrey, he's going to burn you, right? He's got them little short legs that just boop, 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 get out of there. So I see C.J. Anderson being the one that, has a dip in his attempts because if Cam Newton's consistently running for 600 yards, 700 yards a season, the RB2 on the he's becoming the RB2 or maybe even the RB1. The RB2 handcuff Christian McCaffrey, C.J. Anderson, production is just it's up in the air, right? I guess we'll see in preseason what they decide to do, whether they ship him out for the first 2 downs and then bring in McCaffrey for a little bit of change of pace back out of the backfield. But I say C.J. Anderson, I really don't want to trust him this year. I'm not going to trust him this year. I'll probably grab him a couple times in various leagues, just depending on my running back depth. But I don't see much coming out of C.J. Anderson. I see his 2016 stats kind of being what he produces this coming season. I don't think it's going to be too late for C.J. Anderson, but I think he knows that too because he always gets hurt for some damn reason. All right, anyway, so let's go to the wide receiver 1 of the Panthers, Devin Funchess, right? So Devin Funchess, prior to this last season, I don't know, how do I explain this? Mediocrity. He was just inept at catching the ball. The guy had bricks as hands, right? It would just hit his hand. Like the ball would hit him in the hands, boom, just ricochet off, right? This last season, as soon as they... Okay, so let me put this in perspective, okay? So what happened, okay? Greg Olsen broke his foot, okay? That Greg Olsen's the number 1, option in the passing game for the Carolina Panthers. We'll go into that next. But Greg Olsen got hurt last year. Then what happened was Kelvin Benjamin, he showed up to camp, maybe 30 pounds overweight as a wide receiver. He looked like Fat Albert. And at the end of the day, they're like, we're not having this. Traded him to the Buffalo Bills. So they sent him to one of the... No, man. Goodness, the Buffalo Bills. I'm sorry. And what happened? Devin Funchess stepped up. He turned it around. And he turned it around late. Early on in the season, he wasn't the main target, right? Kelvin Benjamin was still there for a little bit. And Devin Funchess was playing second fiddle. But as soon as they shipped away Kelvin Benjamin, boom, Devin Funchess stepped up. I see him, maybe posting better stats. No, not even maybe. 800 yards, 63 receptions, 8 touchdowns. I'd say the touchdowns stay consistent. The yards are going to go up. The receptions are going to go up. I think his hands are no longer bricks. They're baseball gloves, catcher's mitts. And Devin Funchess, man, he's gonna be a wide receiver too this coming season. So grab him in the 4th, 5th, 6th round. Absolutely, Devin Funchess, man. He's gonna be the number 1 target. Yeah, he's gonna be the number 1 target next to Greg Olsen. So this offense is gonna be moving. Pick up Devin Funchess. Okay, Greg Olsen. I'm gonna say it like 4 times. Ready? Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen. Okay, we got that. I got it out of my system anyway. Greg Olsen. That was the 5th time. There you go. Boom. In 2016, 1,000 yards receiving, 80 receptions, 3 touchdowns, right? So before we go into where I see him this coming season, this is how tight ends work in the NFL, right? There are usually 5 good tight ends, right? There's like the Gronkowskis, Ertz, Kelsey, Jimmy Graham, and Greg Olsen, right? Greg Olsen last year broke his foot, came back at the end of the year, caught a couple touchdowns, scored for my fantasy team, picked him up off the waivers. And the fact of the matter is, he's going to go back to being what he usually is, 1,000 receiving yard kind of guy, 70 receptions, because Cam Newton loves his Greg Olsen, and a handful of touchdowns, plain and simple. He's going to be a top 5 tight end without a doubt in my mind, maybe even top 3. He'll be the 3rd one. He's not that good. He's kind of getting old. His foot kind of hurts. He's getting up there in age. But Greg Olsen's, he's a monster. So plain and simple. As soon as I wouldn't say, here's the thing. If you're playing PPR, you don't want to reach for tight end too hard unless, they're Gronk and they're going to get like 12 touchdowns or Ertz. But I'd say try to pick up Greg Olsen as soon as those top guys start slipping off the board, because having a good tight end week in and week out, being able to trust that, okay, I'm going to get production, I'm going to get 10 points here consistently, there's nothing better than that in fantasy football. Greg Olsen. Anyway. All right, let's hit you with the Atlanta Falcons. So, in 2016, Matt Ryan was the league MVP, and he was a Super Bowl MVP for 3 quarters. Okay? Then, I don't know. It was just, I can't stop laughing. It's still amusing that you can lose a game when you're up 28-3, right? But, it's Tom Brady, right? The team just imploded on themselves, right? But that doesn't mean that Matt Ryan isn't good, right? He's still a consistently good quarterback, right? So here's the deal, right? In 2016, he put up almost 5,000 yards. He put up almost 40 touchdown passes, right? Which is, God, what is this? Look at this. Interrupting me. Anyway, he was a monster in 2016, plain and simple, right? The Super Bowl hangover hit him. It hit the entire team. Here's the thing, right? This is exactly what happened, right? They lost the Super Bowl, right? Then they lost their offensive coordinator, Mike Shanahan. He's the head coach of the 49ers now. Their offensive coordinator turned into Mark, not Mark, what am I saying? Who the heck is Mark? Something Sarkisian, right? From Alabama, used to be at USC, used to be at Washington. And it happened again. It's all good. Sarkisian, right? And, what happened was the offense it wasn't clicking early. It in my opinion, it never clicked this season, right? They still won 10 games, though. They went 10-6 with an offense that did not click, an offense that did not produce, and they made the playoffs, right? I mean, that's literally why we're covering this division first, right? They're the best division in football, right? They had the Saints win 11 games, the Carolina Panthers win 11 games, the inept Falcons win 10 games, and even their worst team in their division won 5 games, the Tampa Bay Bucks. And then you have teams like Cleveland winning 0. Jesus. Somebody fire that coach at me. Anyway, Matt Ryan. Last year, 18 touchdown dip. Turned over the ball more. Threw 900 less passing yards. You can tell in the fantasy point, his production dipped But you know what? The fact of the matter is, everybody on the Falcons dipped. Everybody was, clouded. Their minds, weren't in the right place. This season, it'll change. They're more comfortable with the offense. Matt Ryan is, a league MVP. He's definitely a top 10 quarterback, without a doubt in my mind. Matt Ryan should be treated as so. I wouldn't say let's put it this way. Drew Brees has more value than Matt Ryan. Cam Newton has more value than Matt Ryan. So if you put it that way, Matt Ryan maybe the 7th, 8th best, not even. Here's it's tough. It's tough. Maybe 8th, 9th best quarterback to draft this next coming season. Because, I don't know if it's going to get better. I mean, they can produce, but is he going to get back to MVP form? I don't know. I think he might just get a little bit better. A couple more touchdown passes, maybe like a 4,500 yards passing, 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He'll put up decent stats. And, I think that's where I see him this coming season. So, maybe you have maybe you like the Falcons. Maybe you like Matt Ryan. Take a gamble. Pick him over Cam Newton, see what happens. I don't know. It's really a coin toss at this point because, he has the weapons. He has Devonta Freeman. He has Tevin Coleman. He has Julio Jones. He has Mohamed Sanu. They just drafted Calvin Ridley in the first round. He has Austin Hooper. He has the offense, right? He has his weapons. The defense is there, but they're playing in a really tough division, right? So, I'd say he can be a QB1 this season. Probably will be. So draft him as so. All right, next, Devonta Freeman. Okay, so here's the thing about Devonta Freeman. Last season, he got about, I think it was 2 concussions within a month. Yeah, 2 concussions within a month. That's not good. As a running back in the NFL, if you're getting concussions as often as that, you should probably, take it easy. Because the fact of the matter is, if you get, back-to-back concussions in such a short period of time, the likelihood of you getting another concussion is just around the corner. So what I see happening with Devonta Freeman, right? Obviously, he has some health risk, right? The concussion problem, right? But at the end of the day, he's an RB2. Last season, he didn't produce as much because he was hurt. Concussions, right? At his best, right, when they were tearing teams apart in 2016, when Matt Ryan was a monster, he's an RB1, right? But until Matt Ryan gets back to form and, Devonta Freeman gets healthy, he's going to be an RB2 this year, probably a top RB2. And he's going to produce. So if you pick him up in the second round, I mean, good for you. You have a starting running back that's going to produce as long as he stays healthy, plain and simple. Okay. Next. All right. So this is Tevin Coleman, right? This is the definition of handcuff, right? Tevin Coleman, as soon as Devonta Freeman went down with injury, just ate up all of the production, right? Devonta Freeman's not playing. Tevin Coleman, you're running the ball. You're catching it out of the backfield. You're getting all the fantasy points. Now, he is the definition of a handcuff, right? The running back too that steps up and takes all the production, right? But the fact of the matter is, Tevin Coleman isn't even a handcuff anymore. He himself can just, with give or take 10 touches a game, put up 10 fantasy points, right? Because he's such an explosive player. Tevin Coleman is absolutely ridiculous. You can start him in your flex, to be honest. On a week-by-week basis, depending on matchup, you can start him in your flex. He is a, 4th, 5th round guy, depending on how many teams there are in the league, depending on if it's PPR or not. He's a monster. I'd like to see him get more receptions. I don't know. Maybe they're just not feeding him enough. If they gave him more attempts, they threw him the ball more, he'd be way more explosive. But then again, Tevin Coleman has his own little injury, concerns. But at the end of the day, definite handcuff. If you have Devonta Freeman, think about picking him up. If you don't, it's fine. You can still start this guy in the flex depending on matchups. If they're playing against the Tampa Bay defense, start him. Put him in your flex. I wouldn't say he's a starting running back. He's not an RB1 or 2. By the end of the year, he's going to be RB3 material. So, draft him as so. Okie dokie. Julio Jones. Oh, my goodness. Julio Jones, right? So, despite Matt Ryan having that Super Bowl hangover, Julio still produced, right? Still had 1,400 receiving yards, 88 receptions. Okay, so Alvin Kamara almost had as much as Julio Jones, but still. Here's the thing about Julio Jones, though. They target him in the red zone, but he just, it just doesn't work, right? I swear he had the top 5 most targets in the red zone for receivers, yet he still only has 3 touchdowns this past season. It's going up. He's going to produce. He's going to be, top 3 wide receiver, probably number 3 behind Antonio Brown and DeAndre Hopkins. Julio Jones, he's consistent. Some weeks you'll get like a 3-point week, right? Which is unfortunate, right? But then he's going to turn around and drop a 30-point week on you, and you're like, okay, I just won the week because of Julio. Last week I lost because of him. This week I won because of him. He's kind of bipolar like that. But at the end of the day, he's consistently going to get you receptions and receiving yards in a PPR league. This guy's a monster. He might be even a first-round pick. He will be a first-round pick in a PPR league. It should be. If it's a half-point PPR, second round for sure. Probably late, mid-second, because he didn't have as many touchdowns last year. But he's a monster. Treat him as such. Julio Jones. Okie dokie. All right, so this one's the most cluttered page I have. But I'm lazy, so I don't want to have to work for it too much. What? Anyway, Mohamed Sanu, top guy. The guy up there with the Falcons uniform. And Calvin Ridley, the guy in the Alabama national championship uniform right there, right? Okay, so Mohamed Sanu, let's just go over this right now. He's pretty much just like Ted Ginn. He's the wide receiver too. He's not going to get too much production. He's going to be on your bench. If the matchup is good and the Atlanta Falcons are playing a defense that just, lets you pour it on in the passing game, you can start him because, Matt Ryan does like to spread the ball. He doesn't like to just force feed somebody, right? Even though, Julio gets his, 1,400 receiving yards, he does not like to force feed people. So he'll spread it out. 1 week, he'll play out of his mind. You'll have Mohamed Sanu with 80 receiving yards, 8 receptions, and a touchdown. And you'll be like, all right, well, Mohamed Sanu just put up 16 points in 1 my week. Thank you very much. So Mohamed Sanu should be treated as, a bench stash. He should never start in your team. He should be in the later rounds, 8th round. Draft him as so. Unless Julio gets hurt, then he automatically becomes a wide receiver too. Automatically. It doesn't even matter. Mohamed Sanu's, good enough of a player to step up if, his targets increase. Okay, so Calvin Ridley. Here's the thing about Calvin Ridley, okay? He's coming out of Alabama, which Julio did also. Steve Sarkisian, right, which is the offensive coordinator for the Falcons, right? He used to be the offensive coordinator for Alabama a couple years back. And, the fact of the matter is, I think they did it on purpose. They're like, let's just start hoarding Alabama kids because we know that they're good. His stats last year in college, 63 receptions, 967 yards, 5 touchdowns. Maybe it was just because of the quarterback play. That quarterback last year for Alabama wasn't the best passer. So obviously his production dipped, but he's a great athlete. This guy will definitely. I could see him, dipping into Mohamed Sanu's receptions. But then again, the Falcons did get rid of Taylor Gabriel, which was their little slot receiver. I think this guy could probably fit in there. He's quick, agile. He can probably outrun these linebackers that try to cover him. He's definitely going to have some sort of production. I don't know if he's going to be the Juju Smith-Schuster of this coming season, or whether he's just going to be, the John Ross, and he'll get, literally 1 reception for 4 yards, and he'll be done for the rest of the year. That's to see. I think he's way better of a player than John Ross, but I don't know if he's Juju Smith material. I don't know if they'll force feed him as Juju was. Anyway, so those are the second and third receivers for Atlanta at this point. Okay, so look at that picture. That guy's helmet's literally flying off. Anyway, so this is the way I see it, okay? Real quick before we proceed. Austin Hooper. As I said before, I have a pretty stern opinion on tight ends. If you don't have a top 5 tight end, I mean, you might as well just, mail it in. Pick up a Ben Watson. Man, I don't trust Austin Hooper. When it comes to this offense, there's already so many pieces that are getting the touches. Julio Jones is going to get his touches, right? Those running backs are going to eat up a bunch of touches. Obviously, the new addition of Calvin Ridley, Mohamed Sanu always is going to get his. Even though it's not as much production or targets, he'll eat up majority of the offense. Those two. Austin Hooper, in 2016 he was hurt for sure, right? They used Toilolo. Toilolo is gone. He was a 6'9" monster. I don't think he was that good of a tight end, but he was huge. In 2017, 50 receptions, 500 yards, 3 touchdowns, an 88-yard long. Yeah, that was like in week 2 or week 1, if I'm not mistaken. Here's the thing. If you don't get a good tight end early, you can mail it in with him every week. The fact of the matter is, I've statted it out. Austin Hooper, with last year's stats, gives you about 6 points per week on average, which and that's in half-point PPR leagues. That's not great. 6 points. I mean, you're practically, you might as well just gamble and grab somebody else off the waiver and start him every week instead of have to worry about, is Austin Hooper going to catch a touchdown this week? He'll double his production with 1 touchdown grab. Like, I don't know. Again, grab a top 5 quarterback running back. Grab a top 5 tight end. Plain and simple, just do it. I mean, you'll save yourself a lot of stress and a lot of worry. Okay, so the last team, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jameis Winston, crab legs. I went to the market. I grabbed some crab legs for free, and the NCAA lost their mind. Anyway, so last year he was hurt. Ryan Fitzpatrick stepped up, played a couple games, but he was still productive at the end of the year. The way I see it, everybody thought Jameis Winston was going to break out last year. His injury didn't help, and his production honestly didn't help. The fact of the matter is, they're literally still the worst team in this division. They're going to have trouble, and the game scripts are going to consistently have Jameis Winston throwing the ball, right? Because they're always going to be down in points, right? So in a fantasy standpoint, this is not bad, right? If your team is losing consistently, you got to go out there and you got to throw it until you close the lead, right? Obviously, you'll throw an interception for a touchdown. Sure, that's -2 points, right? But then your offense gets the ball again. They can go out there and they can give it their best. He can try to get you as many points. The way I see this, Jameis Winston should never start. I'm saying it. You can at me. Never start in a 12 quarterback league. Never. Don't even start him, right? Let's say, for example, you have a bye week and you're desperate and Phillip Rivers is already starting for another team. That's going to piss me off. Anyway, you should never start him for a team in the league, plain and simple. I don't see how. Yeah, no. The only time I would see Jameis Winston being productive enough this coming season to start, I'd say, because there's so many good quarterbacks in this league now. If you play with a 2 QB league, if you play in a super flex league, which is a flex position that has QBs, running backs, tight ends, wide receivers, you can start him there. Other than that, Jameis Winston is a matchup-dependent guy. You can't play him against Denver's defense. You can't play him against who's another monster? You can't play him against Houston, right? He's going to get smothered. At the end of the day, you have to play him into softer matchups like the Colts or some soft defense like as such. I can't even think of defenses. Yeah, well, I don't know. Especially in their division, when it comes to Carolina and Atlanta and the Saints, he gets torn apart. So 6 games a season, he's struggling, right? He'll put up points, right? He's not the worst quarterback in the league, right? He's definitely not. He's a top 20 quarterback in this league, maybe even top 15 if you ask the right person. But at the end of the day, Jameis Winston, statistically, he'll be in our quarterback 2. If you're in a 2 QB league, pick him up in the 6th round. He'll be there. Trust. Okay, next. Here we go. You ready? I need boo. Okay, you hear that? Sirens are fucking going. Sirens. Oh, hey, excuse my language. Here we go. Here it is. Ronald Jones out of USC. I'm calling it right now. You can at me on Twitter, whatever you'd like. He is going to be the breakout sleeper of the year. Okay? There is not a single running. There's literally. Okay, so let's put it this way. Last year, okay, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had Doug Martin. They had Jaquiz Rodgers. They had Peyton Barber. They had a whole slew of bums. Bums. Okay? They went and picked this kid up out of USC. He's productive. He's got great breakaway speed. Obviously, it helped them that they were playing really, subpar teams in college. But with Tampa Bay's blocking and his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, I only see good things happening for this kid. The way I see it, I'm calling it right now. You should try to pick this kid up before I'd say he's a 6th round kind of kid, right? No one's going to see him coming. If you play in a league where everyone's like kind of aware of what's coming out of college, you'd probably want to be, more careful. But in a league, some of the leagues I play in, nobody really pays attention. Last year, I got Kareem Hunt off of the waivers after the draft. I can see this kid doing the same thing. He's going to have majority of the production there. When I say majority, I mean he's going to have 300 attempts rushing. Not 300. What did I say? 300? Oh, my goodness. 200 attempts rushing. Goodness, I almost lost my mind. No, don't at me with that one. 200 attempts rushing. He's going to produce probably 800 rushing yards, probably 5 touchdowns, probably 200 yards receiving. I'm telling you, Ronald Jones, remember the name. Plain and simple. Okay, Mike Evans. Production dipped last year. He's a monster. But because of Jameis not being healthy, he suffered a little bit last year. Owners of Mike Evans struggled because the year prior, he was a top 3 wide receiver in the league. He dominated up and down the field because he had the receptions, he had the yards, and he had the touchdowns. Last year, his production dipped. But that's good, right? For those of you watching right now, you'll know. Mike Evans will come back to form. Absolutely, without a doubt. He's going to step up. He's going to be himself again. And the way I see it, Mike Evans is kind of a sleeper. People are going to think, okay, let me go get my Julios. Let me go get my Devonta Adams. Let me go get my T.Y. Hiltons. And they're not going to really look for Mike Evans, right? So if you can pick him up in the 3rd round, he's a wide receiver 1 this coming season. Plain and simple. Jameis is a quarterback that force feeds, right? Who? He force feeds Mike Evans. He's going to throw the ball and just litter him with receptions. Plain and simple, it's Mike Evans will be a wide receiver 1. Pick him up in 2nd, 3rd round. If you can steal him in the 3rd, that'd be incredible. Okie dokie. Artichoke. DeSean Jackson. So, DeSean has been in like 9 different teams. No, he hasn't. But in 2016, he played for the Redskins, had a 1,000 receiving yard season. Last year, he came to Tampa Bay. He's still got a little bit of speed. He's still DeSean Jackson. But without Jameis, and you have, Ryan Fitzpatrick under center for, majority of the end of the season, there's not much production to be had. At the end of the day, Jameis's deep balls is okay, right? And I don't know if it's good enough for DeSean. So He's kind of like a Ted Ginn. He's kind of like a Mohamed Sanu. You're going to pick him in the 8th, 9th round, and he's going to sit on your bench, and you're going to play him into good matchups, plain and simple. And, I mean, that's it. I don't see him coming to form. I don't see him getting 1,000 yards receiving. Yeah, that's plain and simple. DeSean Jackson is just going to be, just an average form of himself, pretty much. Okay, so the last part that we have for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is Cameron Brate and O.J. Howard, right? So Cameron Brate used to be Jameis' favorite tight end until the Alabama kid came in. So what happened last year, okay? Cameron Brate had 591 receiving yards, and O.J. Howard had 432, right? So as a tight end group, they almost had 1,000 yards receiving, which is pretty good, right? But the problem is you never know where the production is going, right? On a week-to-week basis, if you have O.J. and Brate, who are you going to start, right? Even if you don't have both, right? The fact that the other one exists within the league and on that team on every Sunday is a problem because you don't know who's going to catch the ball, who's going to catch that touchdown, who's going to be playing, right? Having two tight ends, that's an automatic like red X through the middle, just cross it off. You should not be touching these guys unless you're willing to take the risk, right? If you're willing to take the risk, take Cameron Brate, right? Cameron Brate probably, because of the more experience, the more rapport with Jameis Winston, will get more receptions, will get more production. But at the end of the day, I don't want to touch any of these guys unless you're extremely desperate and it comes to that point where you're like, I have Austin Hooper. I made a mistake. I didn't listen to Andrew. And you're like, well, who should I pick up off the waivers? O.J. Howard's there. Should I give it a gamble? If you have to take that gamble, so be it. But, try to not put yourself in that position. As I said, tight ends. Get a top 5 tight end. Let everybody else suffer. They'll come to you. What can I do, to get Zach Ertz off your hands? What can I do to get Travis Kelce off your hands? And, you can demand the world. And they're going to be like, okay, well, I'm not doing that. I'll just go and sit down and get 5 points a week for my tight end. Not even, So, anyway, overall, that's pretty much it. I'd have to say thank you for watching. This will be going up onto my YouTube. And we'll see what we get. Like, share, subscribe. I don't like asking for that. It's just weird. Comment below, please. Actually, I want to see some comments. I just want to see a couple comments, maybe some questions. I haven't actually looked at the Twitch chat. So before we get out of here, let's look at this Twitch chat, shall we? We have okay. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for watching. And hey, you know what we'll do? Somebody comment in the comment section after I upload this. And that'll decide what we do next, whether with division, whether it be NFC, East, West, North, AFC, all of the above, Anyway, thank you for watching.